Why do we shear sheep? When is the right time to do it? And how exactly do you give a haircut to an animal that's covered in over 10 pounds of wool? These aren't just random questions. They're at the heart of a practice that's been happening for thousands of years. From preventing deadly heat stroke to fueling a multi-billion-dollar industry, sheep shearing is way more than just a makeover. In the next few minutes, we're going to unpack the why, when, and how of this fascinating process. And what you learn might just change the way you look at your winter wardrobe forever. The shearing process, more than just a haircut. First things first, why do we even shear sheep? It's not just about getting wool for our clothes. Believe it or not, shearing is crucial for the sheep's health and comfort. Imagine wearing a thick, heavy coat all year round, even in the scorching summer heat. Not fun, right? That's what it's like for sheep if we don't shear them. Shearing prevents heat stress, reduces the risk of parasitic infections, and even helps prevent a condition called wool blindness. If a sheep's wool gets too long, it can grow over their eyes. Definitely a bad hair day. When does shearing happen? Okay, so when do these sheep get their annual trim? Well, there isn't one answer. Shearing usually happens once a year, but the timing depends on a few factors. In warmer regions, sheep might be shorn in spring before the summer heat hits. Some sheep breeds grow wool faster than others, so they might need more frequent haircuts. And sometimes farmers might shear before lambing season to keep things clean for the newborns. It's all about timing and what's best for the sheep. But how is shearing even done? The shearing process, step by step. How does a sheep go from woolly to naked in a matter of minutes? It's quite a process. First up, we've got the big roundup. Imagine a woolly flash mob converging on the shearing shed. The sheep are mustered from the pastures and guided into holding pens. This gathering is more than just herding. It's a chance for the farmers to give each sheep a quick once-over, checking for any health issues that might need addressing. Once the sheep are all gathered, it's showtime. A skilled shearer selects a sheep and guides it to their stand on the shearing board. Now you might think this is where the sheep gets strapped down or something, but nope. The shearer uses a technique that's been perfected over decades to keep the sheep calm and in position. It's a yoga class, with the sheep striking poses it didn't even know it could do. The shearer starts with the belly wool, which is usually the dirtiest part. This gets removed first and kept separate because nobody wants a sweater made from belly button lint. Then, using a set of movements, the shearer removes the entire fleece in one piece, like peeling an orange, if the orange was the size of a sheep. But the shearer's not done yet. They'll do a bit of touch-up work, making sure to get any stray bits of wool from around the legs, head, and rear end. Once the sheep is bald, it's released through a chute in the floor or wall. Meanwhile, the fleece gets tossed onto a special table called a wool table. This is where the next phase of the operation begins. At the wool table, workers called rouseabouts get to work. Their job is to skirt the fleece, which is a fancy way of saying they remove any less desirable parts. This includes short pieces, locks, and any bits that are particularly dirty or matted. After skirting, the fleece is expertly folded and rolled. Then comes the moment of truth, wool classification. A qualified wool classer examines the fleece, grading it based on various qualities like fineness, strength, and color. Finally, the graded fleece is placed into the appropriate wool bin, ready to be pressed into bales. These bales are then shipped off and transformed into everything from socks to suits. And how long does this whole process take for one sheep? In the hands of a skilled shearer, we're talking about 2 to 3 minutes, faster than most of us can get dressed in the morning. Shearing techniques and equipment. It's all in the method. You might think shearing a sheep is just like giving a dog a haircut, but it's way more complex. There are actually specific techniques shearers use to get the job done quickly and safely. The Bowen technique, developed by Godfrey Bowen in the 1950s, involves a set of efficient movements that allow the shearer to remove the fleece in one piece. Then there's the tally-high method, developed in 1963, which is designed to be easier on both the shearer and the sheep. It's all about working smarter, not harder. Shearing equipment, high-tech haircuts. But let's talk gadgets. Shearing equipment has come a long way since the days of using simple blade shears, though those are still used in some places. In a modern shearer's toolkit, you'll find machine shears, the workhorses of the shearing world. These consist of a handpiece connected to a motor with a comb that separates the wool and a cutter. The comb and cutter are the working end of the machine shears. The comb glides along the sheep's skin, while the cutter moves back and forth over it, snipping the wool as it goes. You've also got blade shears, those old-school tools still used in some places, especially for smaller flocks or in areas without electricity. They work like giant scissors, with two blades that slide past each other to cut the wool. Then there's the shearing stand, which keeps the sheep in position during shearing. Professional shearers often wear special moccasins that help them grip the floor and absorb sweat. From fleece to fabric. Now, once the wool is off the sheep, its journey is far from over. The raw wool goes through a series of processes to turn it into the soft, cozy material we all know. First up is scouring. That's a fancy word for washing. The wool is cleaned to remove dirt, grease, and other impurities. Then it's dried and carded, which aligns the fibers and removes any remaining tangles. Next comes spinning, where the wool is twisted into yarn. This yarn can then be woven or knitted into fabric. The fabric might be dyed to give it color, or treated with special finishes to make it softer, water-resistant, or even flame retardant. The final products, more than just sweaters. When we think of wool, most of us probably picture cozy sweaters or warm blankets. But wool is way more versatile than you might think. Sure, it's great for clothing. Everything from socks to suits can be made from wool. But did you know it's also used in carpets and furniture? Or that it makes excellent insulation for houses? That grease that's washed out during scouring? It's called lanolin, and it's used in all sorts of cosmetics and skincare products. And wool can even be used as fertilizer. The bits of wool that aren't suitable for clothing can be broken down into the soil, where they slowly release nutrients. The other side of the story. Now, as much as we love our woolly products, it's important to talk about the controversies surrounding sheep shearing and wool production. Animal welfare is a big concern for many people, and rightfully so. While shearing is necessary for the sheep's health, there have been allegations of mistreatment during the process. Some animal rights organizations have raised concerns about rough handling, injuries during shearing, and the stress the process can cause the sheep. There have even been investigations into alleged abuse by shearers in some cases. It's a serious issue that the industry is working to address. One of the main problems is that shearers are often paid by the number of sheep they shear, not by the hour. This can create pressure to work quickly, sometimes at the expense of being gentle with the animals. There's also currently no requirement for formal training for shearers, which some argue could help improve animal welfare. Many in the industry are working hard to improve practices and prioritize animal welfare. There are efforts to develop better training programs for shearers and to create standards for ethical wool production. Some farms are even exploring alternative methods, like using injections to cause the wool to naturally separate from the sheep's skin, removing the need for mechanical shearing. As consumers, we have the power to influence these practices by choosing wool products from sources that prioritize animal welfare. It's about finding that balance between producing the wool and ensuring the well-being of the sheep that provide it. So next time you pull on a wool sweater or snuggle under a warm blanket, remember the journey it's been on. There's a whole world of work and craft behind every woolen item. After all, every product has a story, and the story of wool is one that's been woven into human history for thousands of years. If you found this fascinating, hit that subscribe button to catch more videos unraveling the stories behind everyday items. Do you think sheep shearing is ethical or not? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious.